Blessings, y'all. It's Jesse in episode 2 of my series here, E.G.A.P.S, which stands for Everybody Got a Prince Story. This is the second episode in which I'll talk about my first time meeting Prince and the last time I met Prince. Sign of the times, mess with your mind. Hurry before it's too late. There was a time I used to review Prince music, some of you remember. I would have a lot to say about this album. I've just been listening to it since it came out last Friday, and wow, it really inspired me to make this video. And it's a long time coming. I'm gonna share various stories here. Not all of them, of course, but the ones that are relevant. And we'll just take it from there. So the first time I met Prince was June 29th, 2010, which was 10 years ago. I met Prince in a dream. I wrote about this dream, and I'm going to share with you what I wrote. So I said, Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince, is Prince. I just had the craziest dream that I just met Prince in person. I'm sure this was caused by the BET Awards 2010. Not only did I meet him, but I shared with him the gospel of Jesus Christ. It was spectacular. He had the same outfit he wore at the BET Awards. He started to cry, and we were just rejoicing in God. And I share with you now how and where I met him on Tumblr in the dream. I don't know why I had this dream, and I don't know why I'm sharing it with you all. Maybe because I did in a dream, but it's one of those things that rarely happens to me. I've always admired Prince and his talent. The fact that he's a mysterious person, changing his name to a symbol, his style and extreme lean to a sexually provocative message. The guy is a mystery. He has so many sides to him. He believes his music should be controlled by him since he wrote and produced it all. Therefore, you won't find hardly any YouTube videos with him and his craft there, because currently he believes the world should not see this or listen to them without his sole permission. Remember, this is 2010, when you couldn't find hardly anything online for Prince. So now it's not easy to get a hold of Prince in his previous music videos and live performances. He's a changed man who's very much consumed in his faith. I respect him very much. But I don't know what persuaded me to tell you this. But there's one thing the world can't deny. The ongoing transformation and mystery of Prince. I feel we'll never know until slowly he reveals something new. Prince is the man, though. His influence has reached millions and billions. So I wrote that because I remember seeing the BET Awards. That was one of the first times I remember really seeing Prince for the first time. And I just thought it was amazing. He had on this outfit, which was a picture of himself, which ended up being the cover art for 2010. I just found that spectacular, and I ended up having that dream. So fast forward, this is also around the time I really started listening to Prince. 2010 was my introduction to Prince. I heard that album and it changed my life. I just started to listen to everything from that point on. And I talk about a lot of this extensively in my interview with the Prince podcast, if you want to check that out. But anyway, I'm just giving you a story to set another story. So that dream happened, and from that point, I just started to listen to Prince like all the time. And again, at the time, Prince didn't have any of his music videos online. And see, a lot of people now are spoiled because they're so used to just listening to anything. It's just on YouTube now. But when Prince was around, especially when Prince was around, before Tidal, you couldn't find his music nowhere. If you didn't know anyone who could give you that music or share that music with you, you ain't gonna get it because he had it so tight. But I was blessed to have a bunch of people just send me a lot of the stuff. So I just listened to so much of it, and I was blown away. And I had that dream, and I ended up meeting Prince after 3 years after that dream. So that happened March 17th, 2013. I went to South by Southwest because, again, I listened to Prince so much. I was vibing with the music. I started making these videos, talking about the music, reviewing the music, and I found out through Dr. Funkenberry, what's up, homie? He basically was like, yo, Prince is watching your videos. That made me very self-conscious, obviously, because, sometimes I would review his music and I wasn't always nice. If I didn't get a song, I was like, don't really get the song. I don't know why he's saying that, but some people like it. Different strokes for different folks. I always acknowledge that people have a right to like what they like. And because Prince has so much music, it's not hard to find someone to say, hey, I don't really like that version. Because he has like 7 versions of one song anyway. So anyway, I was self-conscious of that, but I still didn't allow it to interfere how I made my videos because my main reason for making these videos was the power, the persuasion I got through the music. It just like electrified me. And the words he was speaking about, it wasn't just the music, it was everything. And I love that he had the discipline to just continue that throughout his career. And he didn't mind making the changes and committing any scenario in which people would be like, yo, like changing his name, literally committing career suicide. Because, like, yo, no, if I don't own the masses, I'm a slave. And he wrote that on his face. So, I mean, anyway, I was obviously transformed by Prince's music, and I just started making these videos. Found out he was watching those videos. Eventually, he sent me out to South by Southwest, and that's where I got a chance to meet him and his trailer right after the Austin performance. And yeah, that was in Austin, Texas. I remember just obviously being elated and out of my mind because I finally got a chance to see him live, because previously I had never seen him, and he allowed me to just witness him live like that, and it was pretty phenomenal. And meeting him and just what he said to me, which was very much endearing, still something I always carry with me. He was like, you know, watch your videos, you have a light, and that light is really needed in this world. And I think what you have is really special, and keep doing what you're doing. And he complimented my nephews. Like, your nephew's really cute, by the way, because my nephew Deshaun would be in my videos sometimes, and we would jam out to Screwdriver and everything. And he was just really sweet, and he was like, I'll see you soon. And of course, that ended up happening, and I'll get to that. But that moment in itself was just amazing, because when I got into the trailer, I remember looking at him, and I'm like, yo! I remember just being like, it's like Prince, yo! And he came over and he hugged me, and he's like, and it smelled like lavender. Like, that whole trailer smelled like lavender. And Demarius was in the trailer with him, and I remember just being like, you were amazing. Like, this was the best show of my life. And he's like, yeah, I believe it was the best show I've ever done. Like, yeah, you were amazing. You didn't play guitar. And he was like, I didn't have to. The band was on point. And he was absolutely right. I mean, that show was bonkers. It was so long, and it was so full of energy. And just him giving me that moment was really special. And I remember leaving that, going into the trailer with Third Eye Girl and the band, and everyone's just like, yo, Jesse, yo. It's like, oh, I'm like, my mind is blown. You know, I just had so much energy. I'm like, this is happening to me. It's crazy. I never would have, like, just. So that started, like, the Prince, like, that was like the trampoline. After that, everything just started to, like, catapult. And of course, 2013 was a very massive year. So much was going on online. He was just releasing live streams, music. He had the website. And Paisley Park, of course. I finally went to Paisley Park later on in that year in October. And it just really became a powerful thing. So over and all, after that, eventually I moved to Minneapolis, 2015. I never really liked being in Texas anyway. I'm like, I'm going to just move to Minneapolis to chance the opportunity, possibly, maybe I'll get a chance to work for him. Because I really wanted to be in it, and I'm not shy to say that. I moved to Minneapolis to be a part of the Prince thing. I just didn't want to be in Texas, because I remember he would share these parties randomly, and I would be so angry. There were only a couple of times I was able to score a ticket at that right moment. I remember being, this is a random story, but I remember being in Texas on a date with my girl at the time. And I'm like, baby, I gotta go to Minneapolis tomorrow. I know we're on vacation. You are welcome to come if you want. But I have to go to this party because I'm not missing it. And yeah, but that wasn't like something I could do all the time, because you never knew. And I was like, I'm gonna just move. Like, why not? I could move to Minneapolis. I can make that work. And you know, it ended up happening. And I met a wonderful family here that just really made sure I was okay, and I was able to work and do what I needed to do. But yeah, that's why I moved to Minneapolis, because Prince was here, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be in Texas, missing these flights, or not able to make a flight because he just announced this. Like, the pain, like, y'all don't realize, like, the energy and the power that came with Prince live. If you don't know, you better ask somebody, in the words of Prince. So I moved to Minneapolis, but before I moved there, the moment that really said to me, Jesse, you could potentially, you know, be in this thing for real, was in 2014. So July 12th, around that time, 2014, I got a message from Trevor, blessings to my brother Trevor, and he was like, hey, can you make it out here? And I'm like, yeah. And so basically, there was a flight made available within what, hours from there, and I was in Minneapolis to meet Prince and Third Eye Girl. At this time, Prince was releasing a new album, Plectrum Electrum. We all knew about Plectrum Electrum because Third Eye Girl was the catalyst of 2013. It was pretty much what we all were waiting for. What is Plectrum Electrum was the question. We did not know that Prince was also going to release Artificial Age. Now, he wanted to talk to me about this, and he wanted to also talk to me about why he didn't release an album. Because that's what everyone was talking about. Where's this album? It's just been so long. 2013 happened. There was no album in 2013. So we like, yo, 2014, nothing happened. July, the album is not here. But I get a chance to hear some of Artificial Age. I'll never forget that moment. And I always share this moment because it's pretty much the reason why. And I'll always say, I follow Prince because of the music. Prince, something about Prince and his music, the listening experience is always overwhelming because it just electrifies you. And I remember, before I get into that particular story, I talked to him with Third Eye Girl over the speakerphone, and he was giving me so much information, and I'm just like, yo, I'm in the oven, Prince. I cannot just take this all at once. And he's like, cool. And then he went back, and it was just like he was giving me so much information, and essentially, and I have this video online if you want to watch it, but one of the things he was saying is that sound has been compressed in small little bits and therefore it loses value. That's all what Prince ultimately intended to get across while talking to me. So this video, I described exactly just the transference of everything, because when I made the video, it was right after I had this meeting. It was right after I came to the hotel. I was pretty energized by it all. So I don't think I really got through exactly the message, how he basically, I could have crafted it better, which is why I added in the description that I believe we have the routes to counter this system. Think of vinyl releases are releasing music through a lossless USB. So essentially, Prince released his next album on Tidal, which obviously provides lossless, high-quality music. He was pretty much frustrated with the idea of releasing music on a CD because it's compressed, and he didn't want people to experience the music in such reduced sound. So for the most part, that's what he wanted to get across. And I remember being in the room with Leanne LaHavis, because she was there as well. And we listened to, this goes a bit beyond another part of the story, but I'm just remembering that moment because we watched the video to what is one of my favorite songs, Indifference. And it was unedited, and he had no makeup on, and he told us that right before we watched the video, like, don't judge me, I don't have any makeup. And it was just such a phenomenal moment, just me, Prince, and Leanne LaHavis, and Trevor was in the control room, and it was just pretty amazing. I just remember being like, are you going to release this? And he was like, of course he didn't release it till a year afterwards. But yeah, that was just so phenomenal. So anyway, I'm listening to him rant to me about what he wants to do and why he has not released any music. And after this conversation, I mean, I was pretty elated. And I remember just being with Third Eye Girl. Joshua was there. Trevor was there as well. And they were listening. They were just like, Jesse, yeah, they were in it just as I was in it. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking this all in. It's a lot, though. It's a lot. So after all that, he talked for God knows how long. As I said, Prince was going into it. And that's usually the way Prince does it. Like, when you talking to Prince, you listening, essentially, because he going at it. So that meeting concluded, and then I said goodbye to Third Eye Girl, and I thought that was it. So I went out to the main atrium area, not the atrium area, but the front entrance of Paisley Park, and Kirk was there, and I just heard some music. I'm like, well, is that it? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, you could just follow the music if you want. I'm like, okay, so I'm following the music. Like, I'm like, I didn't see Prince at this point. So at this point, I'm just talking to him over the speakerphone. So I walk into the Studio C rehearsal area where he filmed Plectrum Electrum, and they're jamming off to some song from Mary J. Blige. I believe it's a remix Prince did, and it's just pumping. Everyone's just like, and everyone's in the room dancing. And Prince has this light blue, all light blue. He looks smooth, big afro out. And he sees me and he's like, And then after that song concludes, he calls me over and he puts me in his swivel chair. And he's like, listen to this. And he plays the gold standard. And as soon as I heard that song, I jumped up like a popcorn. I was like, "Woo!" And I just started jamming. And I was just like dancing. It was so funky. And he just laughed. But I mean, it was just like anyone who knows me, for me, it's all about the music, and that's what I needed. And when he played that, it just blew my mind. And then he played "You Know." He was like, "All right, sit down a little bit. Let me play this one." And he played "You Know," and I just thought that was transformative. And it was at that point where Prince kind of took control of the room. And here's the thing: that moment, everyone is just kind of like, when the music was going, we danced, and when the music stopped, everyone was just like, okay, like, And Prince was conscious of that. I remember at a moment he was like, "So no one's saying anything. Why is that?" And we just like, and he was talking about a lot of different things. I remember he even mentioned he was giving jokes about different dialects in Europe and how different people talk, and he was accurately portraying those dialects. It was quite funny. And not long after that is when he took me and Leanne LaHavis to listen to and watch the video for Indifference. But wow, that changed my life. And that was the moment where I was like, "Get your ass to Minneapolis, man." And I ended up doing it a year afterwards in 2015. And so things started happening in March. I know I'm all over the place, but that's how I have to do these videos because there's so many memories coming in at once. But so he did a party for Judith Hill back in time. And I was there with Danny and my homies, the True Blues. We were all there. And I remember reviewing that. And I told them, like, "Y'all, I moved here, so if y'all need anything, I always say, whatever, I'm here of service. What you need, I can do it." I was already working at the time, and I was like, I can do this. Like, this is a journey. I want to see what comes of it. And it was amazing. I mean, things just happened one thing after the other, parties, and I would get these calls. And I've made a lot of these videos, again, all these videos online if you want to watch them. But what I'm particularly talking about is the last time I talked to him, which was January 23rd, 2016. So this was a very pivotal moment for Prince and for everybody because so much was going on at the time. And even now, before I go into 2016, I realized I got to rewind a bit more and go into 2015, November 7th, 2015. Maybe that deserves another video because that's a lot. But it was in that moment also that I was like, my life is about to change because this was when Prince was really embarking on something incredibly new. Upon thinking about it, I'm going to probably talk about that at another time. The only reason why I mention that is because I just remember realizing, like, yo, this is it. It's going on. Like, he is sharing himself in a way that he never did. And of course, Piano Microphone happened January 21st, 2016. But November 7th was like the first precursor to the Piano Microphone, where he did a short little set, and I had the privilege of giving a tour for the European journalists there alongside with Trevor. And that's when they told me, "Hey, Prince is taking this to Europe and you're coming along." And so I was like, what? Of course, it didn't end up happening, but just realizing that that was the direction he was heading in. He was planning on having some jam sessions as he had this new band. He had Mono Neon, Adrian Crutchfield, Donna Grantis, Kirk Johnson, and I'm, running a teleprompter. I was at these rehearsals just being blown away at the whole experience. Now, that didn't end up being what Prince ended up doing, but it was like, just to be a part of that was phenomenal. Those are some of my most cherished moments, of course, and there are funny stories that happened in that too, but that's just derailing the point because that was not the last time I talked to him. The last time I talked to him was January 23rd, 2016. So this was right after the party. I had already done a bunch of tours that night. I was pretty exhausted. It was around, 2 o'clock, and I'm waiting to get paid, where I usually stand in the MPG music room. And then right before my eyes, I hear some heels walking. Prince has a box of CDs. He has these leather gloves with his symbol encrusted on them, of course. A beanie, box of CDs, places them in my hand, and is like, "Let's talk." So we walk into the production office, what is now the Graffiti Bridge and Under the Cherry Moon room. That used to be a little office there. So he's there, sitting down. Kirk is there, and his eyes. So the three of us, we talking brother to brother, right? And I'm looking at him. This is one of the first few times I remember, like, yo, you were looking at Prince Rogers Nelson. And I saw all of the eras before my eyes, from Love Sexy to Come to all of it. It was pretty astounding. And essentially, he was telling me a lot of different things, of course, but primarily peer-to-peer distribution. And he's like, you sell these CDs and keep the profit. I'm like, what? He's like, sell it. Yeah, and then he mentions the movie Blow. He's like, have you seen that movie? And I say, yeah, I remember that with Johnny Depp. He's like, yeah. And he goes into how he made all of this profit from selling it wholesale. And he's like, that's what you can do. And you don't need to rely on me to release anything because I've done it already. You are the new power generation. He's like, and for those that want to do this, we can work out a deal where they keep half and I get the other half. And that's how we go. Like, this music needs to get to people, and that's the only way to do it. Now, this was quite amazing. Now, there are people involved in this who know all about it. There are, I can go into the other side of it, which I don't want to go into the messy aspect of it all the way because it's not really relevant. But the reality was, it was pretty life-changing information. He wanted me to share this with everybody. So he's like, are you going to Perkins, right? Because that's where we always went. After a Paisley party, we go to Perkins and eat and talk about how awesome the night was. He's like, tell them this. So I get there to Perkins and I tell them this, and of course, not everyone was really feeling this message. They did not get it. They're like, why does Prince want you to keep the profit from his CDs? Like, it did not make any sense to a lot of people. Eventually, as I said, going forward, a lot of my friends ended up making a lot of money from it, and it was pretty wealthy. It was pretty, you can look into the different angles and how he was like, yo, I'm getting paid regardless. But I myself, I remember it was just such a gift for him to do this because I did not have any intention on selling those CDs, at least not to buy any more. I was pretty thankful for the opportunity to have the ones that I had and to get rid of some of them because this was the Hit and Run Phase 2 CD, and it was not released at the time. I mean, the only people getting it were those who went to the shows, which eventually, he did the piano microphone, so if you went to that. But it was just pretty phenomenal because it was like, yo, all of this is happening at once. And he wanted me to share this. But one of the significant highlighted moments was you don't need to look at me to do it. I think so much of what Prince wanted and what he built was self-efficacy. Like, he did it all, and it's because he just had that discipline, and obviously he was a genius. But he really loved anyone going after what they went after. And I told him, at the time, I was already going to New Zealand. Shout out to Jeremy Garner. I was creating Characters in the Wind, and I remember telling Paisley Park and Prince, like, yo, I'm going to New Zealand for 3 months. I'll be back. Of course, Prince passed away while I was in New Zealand. I did get a chance to see him while I was there. Didn't talk to him. I gave him a head nod, and that was pretty much all I needed. That was a pretty life-changing show. But thinking back at that message was just very significant because that's what the new power generation is all about. Like you go after whatever you are doing, do it. And just that's something I've taken with me. I'll always cherish these memories that I've had. He really mentored me throughout that, and it really gave me the inspiration to continue as I have been. Because even when I made the Prince videos, and again, a lot of those videos are not online, at least not the reviews. Let me know if you guys want to see those. I mean, I don't have necessarily any reservation with posting them, but I do think those reviews don't reflect my ever-changing experience with Prince's music, because a lot of those songs I don't feel the same way about them, and I realize I'm not a reviewer. I mean, I don't mind talking about it, but I really went out my way to talk about every Prince album. It's like, maybe I'll bring that back, but the point is, while I was making those videos, I still had my other stuff. I still had my poetry going. I still had all of the rambling rants that came through me. I was always doing that, and I think Prince always appreciated people that just did their own thing. Like, what's your thing? Writing? Do it. Sewing? Do it. Singing? Do it. Just know what comes with it and have the discipline that comes with carrying it forward. So I want to thank Prince for that message. I mean, it really transformed my life, and that is really what I needed to really help me take his transitioning, because a lot of people still find it hard, and I just recently went to Paisley Park, and I thought that was amazing. I went to the Sign of the Times screening. the first time he performed there. That's what really made me want to go, because it's like I saw him the last time in Paisley Park. I would love to see him the first time he ever performed, and that was just wow, emotional, but beautiful and funky, and just the energy. It just made me like, falling in love with Prince is an everyday thing when you're listening to his music, but just really looking at the changes and what he was saying around this time, it's pretty revolutionary. It's a great time to really think of what we have now to use for our ammunition in this battle. What can we use? What can we do to solve the crisis? And for me, it's been a lot of reading and organizing, and just getting myself into a place where I'm able to be prepared for what comes next. Because Prince was just ahead. It's like he saw it before it even came. It's like, here's 4 different versions of one thing, but I have a whole other canister that you don't even know exists. Like, it's just the noise is like more quick. What was that? Aftershock. I think it's cat. Yeah, it's just like, it's gonna be a beautiful night. But all of the nights are beautiful when you look into why it all comes together. So I guess that's all I want to say. I've gone a lot of different places here. Thank you for following along and watching. So I do plan on making more videos like this. I think having other friends talk with me and sharing those stories would really just prove the point. E.G.A.P.S. Everybody grab a body, because everybody got a Prince story. And it doesn't matter really where you stand in that story. I have homies that follow Prince since they were young. I got people who've been following Prince since he first arrived on the scene. I started following Prince 2010, 10 years ago. It's been 33 years ago since Sign of the Times album. I like numbers, as you can see. I feel like numbers really add context to the equation here. And calculators come free. But anyway, I'm not rambling on my own thing. Thank you for watching. More to come. And take that message to heart. Prince said it because he knew. And I said this in my first video. He had a way of showing us through everything. Through the music. You listen to what he was writing. Listen and look at the moon cycles. He was saying so many things. And if you follow along, you got it. And it's just amazing that we're able to still transcend with him. It's indeed a sign of the times. Blessings.